Hello and welcome to Beyond the Lights, Football Across Texas, where we're talking football in towns with head coaches across the state. I'm your host, Brandon Brown, retired football coach and AD, and I'm glad you could join us today at this week's stop in the Lone Star State as we meet one more coach and one more town that make up the world of Texas high school football.
Favorite run play? I like ISO.
Power. You got to run the power.
Run the picket fence.
So I was hung up in the crow's nest.
My grandfather was the first African-American running back to be All-State.
I was 19 right about the time and went to a church revival and got saved. And that path changed my life. It's about going in there and changing lives.
Mudita, which is finding joy or happiness in others' success.
Now, I got a funny story on this.
Oh, those guys grew up on beans and cornbread. I grew up on McDonald's and bologna sandwiches, a little better deal.
Yeah.
I'd like to play the flute, Dad.
It ain't all right either. Your entity, but go ahead.
So if I tell you too much more, I have to kill you?
All right, hello and welcome to episode 63. I'm out in Brady today. Now, Brady's a 3A Division II school located about 75 miles east of San Angelo, but I think you're dropping to 2A, aren't you, Coach?
Yes, sir.
I saw that and I figured that's going to be a pretty big deal probably because y'all haven't been. When was the last time Brady was 2A, do you know?
Brady has not been 2A.
Oh, okay.
At one time, Brady was actually a large 3A. But a lot of the 2A teams that we are dropping down that we're going to face are teams that have been 3A and we've faced in the past before.
Okay, so a lot of it won't be that different.
Yeah, it won't be a complete shock to us.
Okay. Well, and I'm out here with the head football coach and athletic director for the Brady Bulldogs, Jaron Roberts. Coach, you doing all right today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing good. You recovering from coming back from spring break?
Yeah.
And back at it?
Yeah, we got a little bit of time off, but, with athletics, you're always going to have things that go on through spring break. And, and so we still had some baseball, softball, track kind of going on, but feel like our kids got a few days of a break and still got to compete. And I think our coaches got it as well. And so, we're back in it and, we're in district play now with softball and baseball's kicking up next week. And of course, anytime you get close to April, you got your district sports for, track, tennis, and golf coming up as well. So we're fast and furious right now.
Yeah. Now, you had mentioned earlier when we were talking that y'all kind of rearranged your baseball, softball, moved it up to Monday so they could have a few days of break in between them, right?
Yeah, we try to stay off the weekends, both the front end and the back end of spring break, let those kind of have for the families. And then baseball was at the beginning of the week, kind of had the rest of the week off. Softball got the beginning of the week off, and because of them starting district a week earlier, they came back in and got softball kicked off, district play there at the end of spring break, and then track kind of went at the end of the week too. So that's kind of what we looked like last week.
Who's in your spring district?
So right now we are in there with Llano, Ingram, Comfort, Blanco, and Florence.
Okay, so my area down by Kerrville.
Yeah, we've been going south quite a bit, and it's been good for us. That's been the one constant. Football and basketball football has jumped around a little bit the last 2 or 3 alignments, even being in 3A. But our basketball and our spring sports have stayed pretty consistent with those 5 teams. And with the new realignment, even with us dropping down, all of those 5 they're all staying the same and just going one school less, I think, for basketball and baseball and softball from the way I understood it. So we got some familiarity with those guys.
Okay. Yeah, you're kind of out here, or there isn't a whole lot of places you could go. When you get out here in the edge of West Texas like this, you kind of see a lot of familiar faces.
It's kind of crazy. We face teams in Region 1, we face teams in Region 2, we face teams in Region 4, kind of West, Central, and South. We don't really get a lot of Region 3, really, I think is all that we really kind of miss. But you'll look up and basketball coach will bring you, their schedule at the beginning of the year, and you're like, we're going that way. And, then your baseball, softball bring you on, and, well, we're going that way. And so, that's been a little bit of an adjustment. But, yeah, we've done quite a bit of traveling. And as we drop down to 2A here, our travel's actually getting a lot better for our fans and our families that have got kids competing. We got – I think we were probably the last team into Region 2 3A this last time. We got thrown in there with Toller, Clifton, Early, Dublin. And, we were doing quite a bit of driving. And this next realignment with football anyways, we're getting Bangs, Coleman, who are both right here around us, and then we're adding Mason, San Saba, and Johnson City. Johnson City's the furthest one, really, about an hour and a half. So we've been used to some 2.5 hour, almost 3 hour drives, and now most of them are within an hour. So that's going to be a blessing for us.
Yeah, that will be good. Yeah, that'll. One of my old coaches from Clifton is actually the superintendent at Johnson City now.
Okay.
Ben Eubanks.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he and his wife Robin both coached with me at Clifton, and now they're over there. I think Robin may actually work at either Comfort or Blanco as a counselor, but Ben's the superintendent.
Gotcha.
They're at Johnson City right now, and they've got some good things going there.
Yeah.
He got his new coach in this past year and everything else. They got some good things going. So it's not like you're going down from 3A to 2A and getting into hey, this can be a cakewalk.
Yeah, oh, absolutely not. When we were kind of preparing for it, we've really kind of known it was coming since last year. I mean, we've been a smaller 3A team. Our numbers have been kind of going down. We've had a couple of big senior classes graduate and a couple of smaller 8th grade groups come in as freshman classes. So we've known this was probably coming for over a year. The crazy thing was we felt like we could go west, out there with Ballinger, Sonora, those guys, and be Region 1. We felt like we could stay central with Coleman and Bangs and those guys and be Region 2. And we felt like we might go south and be Region 4 with Mason and San Saba. And then we kind of ended up taking both of them and
cutting the whole center out of the
cutting the circle out of the middle of the pie, I guess, so to speak, and pulled Mason and San Saba and those guys kind of into Region 2. And so we were talking about it the other day at a track meet. I firmly believe that any of the 6 teams could be the 4 teams in the playoffs the next 2 years. It's a very competitive district. There's good teams, good coaches. By hearing some of these teams and their younger groups coming up, they've got some good young teams, on the sub-varsity levels. And so, it'll be typical 2A football where, obviously health is always, unfortunately, going to play a huge part in it. And then having a little bit of luck and who gets hot and matchups, who matches up the best with the other. And so, we've already kind of had our district meeting and got our tiebreaker set for points and all. And I think that's important because it may end up being, a bunch of us beating each other in a big log jam at the end. So we're excited about it though. Looking forward to it. And I know I think our kids are, just glad now that we know just the uncertainty of kind of not knowing, and you get into off season and you're trying to figure out who you're kind of zoning in and pinpointing in on. And so now we know, and we're just rocking and rolling.
Well, I always thought redistricting was exciting when it was a big change.
Yeah.
Now unfortunately, a lot of my big changes were like going up from 2A to 3A, when we were at Schulenburg, or going from 3A small division to 3A big one, which were sometimes scary. But,
yes, sir.
There's always some excitement to go in with it too.
Oh, absolutely. And we're excited about it, from the biggest standpoint of, like I said, 2A is very competitive. I've been at 2A most of my career, and, a lot of the 2A teams that we've gotten beat by or even had could beat a lot of 3A teams. And so, like you said, competition-wise, it's not getting any easier. I know sometimes that misconception's out there that, you're going to drop down, it's just going to be a cakewalk. Us dropping down to 2A, we're not even the largest 2A. We kind of almost fell. I think when we saw the numbers, we were like the 26th or 27th, one from the top, and then we've even lost a few more kids since then. So, we're not going to have that advantage that sometimes you get either of, we got twice as many as the person over there from us. But that'll be the biggest relief for us dropping down, in that some of like we get in the playoffs and they're trotting out 45, 50 kids, and we're pulling out 27. And so, but we're looking forward to it.
Well, good deal. Well, we always get started with you telling us a little about yourself, what your background is, kind of what brought you to this point where you are today.
Sure. I grew up in Comanche, Texas, and graduated from there, and went to Tarleton, and loved Stephenville, loved Tarleton, and my wife was also from Comanche, so I guess you could technically say I married my high school sweetheart, We've been together for a long time, and I went to college and kind of at first was kind of planning on kind of going into sales and communications, and I love being around people, talking to people, interacting with people, and I did athletics when I was in high school and worked hard and enjoyed it, and as I got into college, I like I said, I wasn't originally planning to kind of go be a coach, but I enjoyed coaching. I have two younger brothers that are quite a bit younger than me, and so as I was kind of in college, I'd still kind of go help out with their teams a little bit, summertime and whatnot, and just really kind of realized how much I missed it through that kind of process a little bit. And I guess about halfway through college, about my second, maybe kind of going into my third year, I kind of decided, that I wanted to go into coaching. And luckily for me, that was back when, you didn't get 40 hours of dual credit in high school.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
You had time. If you graduated high school and you didn't know what you wanted to do, you had time to still kind of go figure it out a little bit. And, a lot of these kids now, I've got a daughter that's a senior this year, and I think she's going to college next year with over 40 hours. And I'm like, sweetheart, you better know what you're going to do, because or we're going to be doubling up and, paying for some stuff that we don't need necessarily. Yeah. And so anyways, and so I decided I wanted to get into coaching at that point, and was involved in a lot of activities there at Tarleton and really enjoyed that. And I got my first opportunity to coach in a small panhandle town called Wellington, Texas. It's up north of Childress, and a lot of people don't know of Wellington, but if you study small town high school football, you've heard of Wellington. They've got some great football teams up there and a great community. And I was doing my student teaching in Hico, Texas, and Wade Williams was the head coach there at the time, and that's kind of how I got the connection. He comes to me one day there, and he's like, "Hey, there's a job open up there at Wellington," and I had no clue where Wellington was. I'm a Central Texas guy, and I remember it was funny. The superintendent called me later that day to set up an interview, and said, "Hey, we'd like you to come up and interview." And he said, "Do you know where Wellington's at?" And I said, his name was Carl Taylor. And I said, "Mr. Taylor, to be honest with you, I have no clue." I said, "First thing I'm fixing to do when we get off the phone is I'm fixing to go find a map and figure out where Wellington is."
Yeah, I knew you were going to say a map. It's so funny nowadays. People are like, "Why didn't you just Google it?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, we weren't that privileged.
Back in 2007, you still went and pulled it up on a map. You didn't have the GPS on the phone and all that good stuff. But and so, to be honest with you, this is funny. I tell people this now, but in my mind, Hico, I'm thinking Wellington's maybe one of these small DFW area schools, right? Just there's so many schools in the DFW area. I'm like, okay, this is probably up here somewhere. And anyways, I remember Mr. Taylor said, "Well, do you know where Childress is?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I've gone snow skiing and gone up that direction." And he said, "Well, we're 30 miles north of that." And I remember getting off the phone, and I was kind of having some second doubts because I was graduating college. My wife still had a year to finish up. She's 1 year behind me. And so I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, there's no way. That's 4.5 hours away. She's still in college. There's no college right around there for her to be able to transfer to finish up. And so I go and I tell my wife, and of course she's excited. Hey, we got an interview. We're a young married couple. We'd gotten married that summer. And I tell her, I'm like, I think I may need to call him back and tell him I can't come up there and interview. It's too far away. And she said, "Absolutely not." She's like, "We need the money, and if they'll do it, then we're going to go do it, And so we drove up there the next day, and great people. I knew very quick at that time. Kurt Ashmore was the athletic director. He later became the principal. Coach Williams came back from Hico to Wellington and became the head coach. So I ended up working under Coach Williams there. And then when Mr. Taylor retired, Kurt Ashmore became superintendent. He's still the superintendent there now. And so anyways, we went up there and interviewed. The hospitality was great. We could tell it was a place that was very passionate about their education and about their athletics, and most small schools are, small towns are. They're the school system's the backbone of the community, and it's definitely that way there. And they offered me a job, and I took it. And I remember, you always, I'm big on loyalty, And so I remember when we first took it, I thought, okay, I'm going to go up here and I'm going to do it for 2 to 3 years. These people gave me my first job. And, we ended up being there in Wellington for 8 years. Both of our girls were born there in Childress, and just loved everything about the community. Great place. Like I said, kids are such hard workers, good old country kids. When Coach Williams came back, his son was a junior, Weston, and had gone to the state track meet as a sophomore. And so when you're plugging that in at quarterback at the 2A level, small 2A level at that, you got a shot to be pretty good. And it was still 1A at the time, and class 2A now. And anyways, we kind of got on a roll and went 11-1. And man, we're having a lot of fun. Shoot, you won football games as a young coach, and and then we made a run to the semifinals in 2011, and kind of had some teams coming back. And we were my wife and I were kind of looking to get back in the Central Texas area, and but it's hard to leave winning. Yeah. and then both of our kids were there, and I tell people this, but almost every first that I've achieved in my career, whether it was teaching, whether it was coaching, anything that I've experienced, and I've experienced multiple times, most of them I experienced the first time at Wellington. It was just a tremendous place for me. Geographically is the only reason I probably ever even left Wellington. I've told people all the time, if it was 100 miles closer to Comanche, I probably never would have left. Just a great place, and was the hardest place that I ever have left. That was the hardest decision I ever made when I did leave Wellington, and had a tremendous run out there. Though we won a state championship there in 2013. I'd had an opportunity to leave the year before for a coordinator job, and I remember just telling my wife, I was like, I just got this hunch we need to stay one more year. I was like, otherwise we may be watching them from the stands at AT&T Stadium play for a state championship. And I don't know what it was. I'm not a premonition type of guy or anything like that, but just had that feeling with the team that we had coming back, and we won it. And so it was a great run there. And then in 2015, our offensive coordinator there at Wellington got the head job at Falls City, which is down south of San Antonio. Which
the Beavers, right?
Yeah, the Falls City Beavers. So Wellington Skyrocket, that's their mascot, and then Falls City Beavers. So I've had some very unique
Skyrocket.
Yeah, Skyrocket.
There are some strange mascots. You start thinking the Skyrocket, the Rohawks at Randall.
Yep.
The Beavers. It's like how do you try to get a team to get behind an aggressive mascot of a beaver? They're very passionate about their football down there as well. Yeah. And so it really doesn't take a whole lot, but they've got some things that they and traditions that are really neat down there and very unique. And when we looked at that job, it was kind of the opportunity. You're right around San Antonio, and so we'd been at Wellington, and our kids were getting a little older, and we're sitting there, and I'm like, wow, we're 45 minutes from SeaWorld. We're an hour and a half from the beach, and so really, and felt like program-wise they were both equal. We felt like, okay, we can go to Falls City, and we're having similar success that we've had at Wellington. And, to back up, I knew when I got into coaching, eventually one day my goal was to be an athletic director and a head football coach. And I tell my coaches that all the time. I'm like, know your why, and also know what your goals are. I tell my young guys that all the time, and make sure that you're working towards those, right? And I knew early on that if I was going to do this and do it long enough, I wanted to kind of get myself all the way up to the top. That was just me. Not saying that's for everybody. Some of the best coaches I know are guys that have been at one place forever, and there's nothing wrong with that either. Yeah. But I think it's important that you know your why and you know your goals early on in your career. And I ask kids that when I bring them in here to interview sometimes, and believe it or not, that's one of the things that they'll stumble on the most. I'll say, hey, what's your goal? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Where do you see yourself in 10 years? And a lot of them can't answer. And so I think it's important for them, and maybe it's social media age. I don't know. Well, I think it's some of it. I think they're afraid to be honest with you, because some of them are afraid that, okay, I got to make sure I say all the right things, because if I say in 5 years I want to be somewhere else as a head coach, or I want to be a coordinator, he may not want me because he may want someone that's going to stay forever. And I told my son, first thing, he coaches at Salado.
Yeah.
I said, it doesn't matter. I said, when you go in for an interview, you be honest, period.
Absolutely.
I said, and if that's not the right fit, then you don't want to be there anyway.
Yeah. And you know, going into that, before I get back to just kind of my journey, you know, I tell my guys all the time, I want guys that are driven. You know, I have no problem with you wanting to be a head track coach later on, or a head basketball coach, or a head football coach. Great,
because then you can help them achieve that goal.
Absolutely. I'll help you. And you know, the way I see it is, when you know your why and you know your goals and you're driven and you're working towards them, whether I keep you for a year, whether I'm able to keep you for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is, I still got the best out of you, which means my kids and our program got the best out of you and the best version of you. And I think that's important, you know. Yeah. I've had some great coaches that left an impact on a program being there 1 year, you know, and you're like, well, what if you'd have known they were only going to be there a year? A lot of people might not have hired them, right? But you see them here for a year and you're like, man, the impact they left on our kids was tremendous, and we're glad we only had them that amount of time. Yeah. And so anyways, I had the opportunity to go down there, run the same kind of offense and defense, same system style that we ran, had the same success. And knowing that I wanted to be an athletic director, I felt, well, if I go do this at 2 different places and have similar success, that's probably going to look, that's probably going to bode well for me later on.
Because you were a common factor.
Yes, sir.
2 places.
Yeah. And so, you know, we had some really good runs there at Fall City as well. I was there for 5 years.
Now, who was your head coach there?
Britt Hart was the head coach there at the time.
I think I met Coach Hart at some point. We used to see Fall City all the time when I was at Schulenburg.
Okay.
We'd run into a track meets or tournaments, things like that.
Yeah. And so he you know, went down there with him, and we were there for 5 years, you know, made a couple more semifinal runs. Another program like Wellington that is just successful all the way around. Yeah. And, you know, one thing I've learned is success breeds success, and it doesn't matter if it's, you know, basketball carrying over into other sports, if it's football carrying into other sports. We've been on both sides of it too, where sometimes your girls' program's lagging a little bit behind and your boys' program's kind of rolling, but that success bleeds over to the girls' side, and the belief of, well, those boys are from the same town. They get up just like you do. They live right here, and then vice versa. We've been at some places where our girls' program was a little ahead of our boys' program, and it's kind of nudged them like, hey, you know, the girls are doing it over here. It can be done with the boys. And so both of those programs had a tremendous amount of success. Enjoyed my time, 13 years between the 2 places. And just a lot of fun to coach with those guys, work with those kids, be around those families, those communities that just completely buy into everything and get behind their kids and support their kids. That's what I tell people when they ask me about being at those 2 programs. What's the biggest thing that you think back to? And it's not the wins, it's not the losses, it's how much you know, excitement there was on game days because of the build up to it, you know, and the buy-in from the community and how important it was to those communities. And so that's a lot of fun. And that's the thing that I enjoyed a lot about both of those places. And then obviously we all know COVID hit kind of in 2020. We were looking at that point, my daughter was in 6th grade at Fall City, and we'd been looking pretty hard, probably the year or 2 before that, to try to find a job kind of back in Central Texas. Like I told you, I was from Comanche. My wife was from Comanche. Yeah. And both of our parents are still there in Comanche. You know, they've been there almost their entire lives, and they're both still working, not retired. And so they weren't making much of our kids' stuff in Pee Wee. Yeah. You know, they'd make it out there for 1 Pee Wee basketball game, maybe 1 Pee Wee softball game. And so we kind of knew, like, for us, we wanted our kids to have that. And so we were trying to get back in the area. COVID hit, weren't a lot of jobs open, and Merkel had a job come along. And, you know, Merkel's a little over an hour from Comanche. And so we were like, well, we're going to go do that. And we went and did it and did it for a year. I never go anywhere planning on only being there a year. It just kind of worked that way. You know, and we got an opportunity the next year to go to Stanford. And I was a defense coordinator there, and just kind of felt like Stanford was more kind of a fit that I was used to, very similar to Wellington and Fall City and the culture and the expectations and the success of the programs. And their girls programs were really good at the time, and felt like that would be a good fit for our daughters. And then so we kind of went there and we settled in there. My oldest daughter Harper, she was a 8th grader at the time. And anyway, so when we got there, I said, okay, I told my wife, I said, we're not leaving here until we find a head job. Like we're kind of close. We're at a good place. Our parents can watch our kids' stuff. And then in 2023, the opportunity kind of came along at Brady. And I applied at a couple other jobs around this area, interviewed for a couple, and just, God's will didn't work out. And the Brady job came along. We got called, came down, interviewed, and, it kind of worked out. And so that's kind of what's led me to where I'm at. And, I've always felt like everywhere I've been, the good Lord put our feet where we were supposed to be, and feel like everywhere, I look back and, people ask me, well, you feel like you stayed anywhere too long or weren't anywhere long enough. And I really don't, I feel like every move was at the right time and was what the good Lord wanted us and kind of where he wanted to plant us. And so excited to be here, and we got great kids here, and it's been a lot of fun.
Well, that's good. Yeah. And I mean, you can look back. I can look back at my career all the time and say, you know what, I wish I had never left there, or I wish. And then I'm like, well, wait a minute. Obviously, at the time, I felt led to leave that place, which must have been what I was supposed to do at that time, because I was like, okay, if God had still wanted us there, he wouldn't have let us leave, or wouldn't have had people vote to make us leave, But, so I think that's a big part of it is we move around. It's kind of like our own mission field within the coaching circles.
Yes, sir.
There's lives that we're supposed to touch in different places at different times, and he moves us where he wants us when he wants us there, and his timing's never ours, unfortunately.
That's right. That's right.
Well, or fortunately, I guess. It's probably better. Yeah. That's neat. They brought you right out here to Brady. So, we've already talked about kind of the redistricting stuff that I kind of had on there next. So let's talk for a minute about your spring. And I know smaller school spring is a lot more of a challenge than bigger school spring, because you're trying to manage. You don't have a set off-season group because they're playing all of your other sports. So how do you manage and structure your off-season with your kids that are in season, out of season, and then we'll talk about maybe how you weight it towards speed versus strength training, that kind of thing. Yeah.
So, you're right. I talk to a lot of athletic directors and a lot of strength conditioning guys, and, you're always wanting to know what everybody's doing. This is a profession where I tell people all the time, we may be some of the biggest thieves there are, right? I mean, you're always watching a play somewhere on Saturday or on your phone, or hey, we can take that and use that. You know what I mean? And you're doing the same thing. I feel like in off season, you're finding out what other people are doing when they show up to a trap meet and their kids are all ripped and and so we by no means kind of invented anything that's new. I think I think another thing that is everywhere it's different. And me being at a couple of different programs, I've kind of noticed that what works at one place doesn't always work it to the same effect always at the other place as well. And so anyways, having said that, we have an athletic period during the day, and that's a big blessing for us as far as off-season work. We try to get all of our weight stuff in during that athletic period. We lift year round. We lift on game days, obviously lighter on game days, but we are believers in, lifting and having a full body year-round program. Feel like that helps with injuries. Feel like it's not a program that's geared just towards football or anything like that. And so all our kids pretty much go through the same thing. As you mentioned, when they're in season, obviously, if a catcher's fixing to squat down behind a plate on Tuesday night, his squat workout may be a little bit lighter than some of the other guys. You know what I mean? Yeah. We also try to not do our heavy squat day on game days. So typically those are Mondays and Wednesdays in the spring.
Okay, that's what we did too during baseball season, especially with Monday, Wednesday, in football. And
so we try to get squat day in that way. And so it's a program that we kind of go through everything. We're not any different than anybody else. When during football season, I'll kind of back up. We do the same thing. we'll come in on Monday and we'll get our squat day out of the way Monday, early in the week. Basketball kids that are basketball only, that are non-football, they're going to come in and get their squat day in with us on Monday. We're going to have some auxiliaries that we're going to do with it. And then the rest of the period, we usually work special teams. Our basketball kids will come in. They may shoot whatever the basketball coach wants them to do. He gets them during that time. And then we come in on Tuesday and we do our power clean. Same thing, we do some auxiliary work with it. We really focus heavily on our shoulders and our knees, hips during season. We feel like those are heavy impact areas, especially for football, baseball players, track guys. Wednesday, we're going to come in and we're going to bench and start laying off the lower body a little bit. And then our JV kids won't lift on Wednesday. So day before the game, we want to get them kind of good and fresh. They have to obviously go scout team against the varsity. And so they're going to we feel like they're going to get pretty physical still a little bit on Wednesday anyways. Yeah. And then Thursday, our JV guys will get their game day lift, and then the varsity won't lift. Get fresh on Thursday, walk through, like I say, what most people do. Friday we'll come in, and our JV will get their last lift in, and then varsity will do their game day lift. Usually about 3 sets, low reps, low weight, just shocking the body, waking it up. And we take that same game day lift and we apply it to baseball season, Tuesdays and Fridays. Our baseball coach he's been doing it a long, long time, and he's a believer in it. We've done it with track. I haven't done this my entire career, lifting on game days, but it's something when we got to here to Brady my first year, felt like we started slow. In all sports, we kind of go out and use the term we've kind of used in the coach's office is we're filling it out. We're out there in the first. It doesn't matter if we gave them some big pep talk and they were juiced up coming out of the tunnel or whatever. We had a great pregame, had a bad pregame. Just felt like we were kind of out there filling it out early on. And so we were like, what do we got to do to kind of get our kids start faster? So we started calling around and we talked to some people that had had a lot of success with game day lifting. And we were like, well, we're going to try it. And we tried it year 2, loved it. It's worked. It seems like it does help our kids a little bit. Break that small little sweat and kind of get the body woke up.
Now, when is your athletic period? What time
so
of day?
It's right before lunch. So
okay.
It's at about 11 to about 12.
So it's early enough. They've got
time
6 hour.
Yes, sir.
6 to 7
yes,
hour.
Yes, sir. And so then and then what we do sometimes we'll bring them in even in the mornings. It don't take long. It's usually about 20 minutes is all it takes. And so that's kind of it. Then when we get to the off season in November, obviously we're going to get our new numbers. We're going to put everything in. We're not any different than anybody else. We've kind of got levels that we work through. Early on, it's lighter weight, it's more volume, and then you're going to progress up to less reps and heavy weight. We focus heavily January and February on strength. We're in the weight room most of those days. It's cold outside. So we're really trying to load up our bodies at that time.
That's exactly what we did. We started and it was a really heavy strength one. Now, when you say you're progressing up in your heavier weights, lower reps, do you do that by like a long-term cycle where, okay, we've got an 8-week cycle or a 9 or something?
Yes, sir. It's a 7-week cycle.
Okay, 7 week. Okay.
It's a 7-level cycle. Like I said, I didn't create it. It's something that I got from, Coach Williams and those guys there when we were at Wellington. It seemed like it worked really well at the 2A level. Coach Williams was a guy that he was at Hico for 20 years and was the head coach there, I think 13 or 14 years, and then went to Wellington for another 11 or 12. He won a lot of games, but had successful programs all the way around. And so I tried to learn as much as I could from him because I felt like, you know how it is, at the small 2A, 3A level, you're going to have your up years, you're going to have your down years. But how do you find a way to be competitive, through that? And then how do you make sure that your down years aren't down for very long, right? And so this worked for him, and I thought, well, heck, this guy did it at 2 places for 30 years, all at the small school level. And it's worked where we've gone, and so we've kind of used it. But it's 7 weeks. By the end of it, you're throwing up 100% to 110% of your max that last week. That usually makes your kids feel pretty good before they max out again, because even if they don't hit their 100, they're hitting the 95 at the end of the workout, or they're hitting the 100. Some of them are hitting the 110. And then the buy-in comes into play, right?
Yeah.
Because they see their numbers popping, their bodies are feeling tighter, and their muscles are bigger, and it's been great. Like I said, it fits well here in Brady, and so then about the end of February, as JV basketball is wrapping up, we go ahead and we remax everybody at that point, get our new numbers, because you got baseball already kicking up. Track's already dibbling into going to some trap meets, and we'll grab our varsity basketball guys as on around their game days and try to get their max numbers as close as we can too, because and you know this from being at small schools, man, as soon as basketball ends,
all heck breaks loose. They're all over the place.
It don't matter if you don't make the playoffs, if you make the playoffs and go 3 rounds. As soon as that ends, kids are going every which direction, and so we try to get that new max right there before that, and kind of start the program over. When we get to really kind of where we're at right now, we're back to like our lighter stuff. Going back to what you said, we're focusing more on speed. We feel like all of our kids. I tell them all the time, like, other than golf, we don't have a program here that if you get a step faster, it doesn't benefit you in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean,
I like that, other than golf.
Other than golf. And actually, I had one of the kids tell me that. They're like, well, what about golf, Coach? I said, okay, every sport but golf.
You're right, you got
right?
me. Yeah.
And so, we even our kids that don't go to track, they're going to do agility stuff. They're going to do 40s, a couple of days a week. They're going to do 100s. I'm a big proponent of, especially when we're lifting heavy, of going out. I think it's good to go out and run miles. Just get a mile in and burn some of that lactic acid out and whatnot. And so they all get some long runs in too. And and so we'll do that through district track, and then pretty much after district track, we're going to go back to kind of a heavy strength explosive phase through the end of school with most of them. Same thing. We'll back off of the guys that are area qualifiers, regional qualifiers in track, and kind of hit it that way. And then when we get to June and July, it's pretty much heavy weight for the football guys.
Yeah.
Just really trying to get the bodies built up and ready for that grind that kind of comes through football season.
God, your sounds so much like the way I structured my off-season stuff, and I always felt like that was something. I mean, we were big on goal setting and then reaching the goals. We had your cycling sounds a lot like the old Aller-Halogen cycle.
It could be.
I mean, very similar. I think the Aller-Halogen cycle, it had 7 workout phases, and like there was a total of, I think, 5 or 6 sets. But we always skipped like the first set of 10 maybe, and the first one was like 10, all sets of 10. The next week was like 10 and then sets of 8.
That's exactly
the
right.
next one was 10, 8, and then 6s.
Yes, sir.
And then it finished with, okay, I bet that's the old Aller-Halogen cycle, because my older brother gave it to me, and it was still the old, you could tell somebody had made photocopies of it on the old, and I don't know if you ever had to use them. I actually did when I started, the hand crank photocopy thing.
Oh, wow. No, I haven't had to use that.
At A&M Consolidated Junior High, where I did my student teaching, I had to make copies on that machine where it had a big ink drum, and you put a paper in there and you turned the crank. Well, that's what these old Aller-Halogen copies looked like.
Wow.
They still had those, and I bet that's the same cycle. If anybody ever needs a good weightlifting cycle, text me or email me, because I've got copies of that still. It's a really good weight program cycle.
Like I said, our kids constantly see gains out of it. Obviously, everybody's bodies are a little different. Sometimes they see a few more gains or a bigger jump in their numbers than some other kids. But generally, 95% of our kids are all going to increase, at least 10 pounds as we've kind of gone through and done it. And like I said, when they do that, they feel better about themselves. It gives them confidence. We feel the weight room's where it all starts. It's the backbone. It's the heartbeat for us as a program to be successful. And so, it's been really good for us and our kids.
Yeah, no, and after my first few years of working with my brother, I found some stuff he had given me in a folder that there was a whole separate allerhalogen cycle 1 and cycle 2 for power clean.
Huh.
Which was, because how with power clean, most people, don't do as high reps.
Yeah.
And this one was all a lower rep set of cycles for the
It's
power
interesting
clean.
you say that, because so for us, we will start, instead of starting on the level 1 with power clean, we'll start on the level 3.
Okay.
And then we'll stay on the level 3
Yeah.
for 2 weeks.
Coach, I think that's what we did until I found this other cycle.
And then if they're blowing through it the second week, we go ahead and let them go to level 4. And then some of the younger kids, they may be on level 3 for 3 weeks, but by the 4th week, everything's back to being, on whatever level, and the same percentages across the upper body and lower body lifts.
Oh, no, that's good stuff right there. I like that. Okay, we're going to take a quick break and hear a word from our sponsor, and that is Coach Randy Jackson.
If you're training your athletes for strength, speed, and technique, you're just keeping up with everyone else. The real edge today is in mental performance. My name is Randy Jackson, and with 33 years of experience, I understand the messaging athletes need, both in season and off season. This is why I created the Blueprint, a plug-and-play system where I serve as your team's virtual mental performance coach. Unlike traditional character programs, the Blueprint delivers mental training that empowers your athletes to think sharper and perform better. Every Division I and pro team trains the mental game. Let me be that coach for your team and give your athletes the competitive edge they need. Join the Blueprint family and help us develop the next generation of mentally tough athletes. Learn more about the Blueprint on CoachRandyJackson.com or call or text me at 214-471-0070.
Okay, let's move on into the next topic here. With public schools, we catch crap all the time, about, oh, well, you're indoctrinating kids with this or that, which to me doesn't happen anywhere in Texas except maybe in some inner city stuff. Because I know when I was part of Fort Worth ISD, there was some of that stuff kind of sneaking around, but even the majority of those teachers there were good teachers that weren't going to be doing that. But how do you defend our public schools when people gripe about it, and why should parents keep sending kids to us?
Well, I know, like you said, I think there definitely are some issues there in the inner cities, and I talked to some coaches and athletic directors in there that, certainly kind of tell some things that just really kind of make you open your eyes and drive back out here to the small area and be kind of glad that it's a little bit of a slower paced life, right? But out here where we're at, man, your school system's such a big part of just your community, and your community pride, and we're not oblivious. We're like a lot of other schools. The public schools are under attack right now, and it's easy for kids to go homeschool right now. We don't really have a private school right around us that's a major threat to pull a whole bunch of our kids, but the homeschool thing is really something that it seems like parents run to that really quick. Yeah. But it really hasn't been any of the athletes, and so we haven't lost anything on the athletics end of it. It's maybe a kid with a discipline issue or an attendance issue or whatever, and they're going and doing those things. But I just think that school's so important for kids to interact. I tell kids all the time, I'm like, you're learning life by getting up and going to school, right? You're gonna have to get up and go to a job one day. There's gonna be parts of the job you're gonna like. There's going to be parts of the job you don't like. There's going to be classes you're going to go like the teacher, and you're going to like the kids that you got in there. You're going to maybe that class comes easier to you, and there's going to be classes that you're going to despise, and that's going to be the longest 45, 50 minutes of your day, right? But you got to figure out how to manage through it and work through it and accomplish the common goal of getting your high school degree. And and so I tell kids that all the time. I'm like, you don't always have to like the class, but you got to go in there and you got to figure out how to make it work, and especially with the athletics kids, And I just feel like we're kind of losing the overall focus of we're trying to prepare kids for what comes next, And I tell our kids this in athletics. I tell our coaches this. Most of our kids aren't going to play college ball. We've been blessed to have a few, but most of them, it's going to be life after this, you know? And so two things. One, we want our kids to enjoy this as much as they can, because you don't ever get them coming back and saying, boy, I regret going ahead and playing football or playing basketball. The ones that come back usually with the regret are the ones that moved off
or quit senior year,
you know, or didn't do it. And so, you know, and like you said, I think there is a lot of indoctrination, a lot of bad publicity that's going on public schools right now. And I think as educators on our side of it, we got to really make sure that we're not just sitting there taking the hit all the time. We've got to be making sure that we're telling our story, you know, and really letting people see even the small things. We a couple of years ago here, they hired a spot for technology director, and this person in this position highlights the things that are going on in school, everything, academically, athletically. If there's something neat going on with the science experiment over there in, you know, first grade, they're over there taking some pictures of it and posting it online. And I think society's become so fast paced, and it's all become political, that, like you said, we're not doing our job sometimes of just highlighting exactly what is going on up here, you know, and the good things that are going on up here, right? I mean, we've been having labs for 20, 30 years. I'm not saying that's anything new, but when something is going on, and let's make sure we're highlighting it, you know, finding the positives that are here, and finding the meanings that are here, and letting people know that, you know, we still are here to care about kids. You know, we're not here to just sit in a chair and draw a paycheck and, you know, some of that stuff. And, you know, and one of the most fulfilling things for me, I know as a coach, is just watching kids grow, you know, watching them become young men, young women. You know, some of the most gratifying things that I get are when I get the calls and the text backs and they got a job that they wanted, or they've gotten married, or you're getting invited to a wedding, or they're having a baby, or whatever. You know, you see that those kids went on and became something productive in society. And that's what worries me a little bit with what's going on in public education right now is, you know, what are some of these kids going to go do in society that aren't staying in the public schools? You know, how are they going to be? I'm not saying they won't be successful, but are they going to be as successful at as high of a rate?
And are they prepared?
And are they prepared?
Ready for that?
Yeah. Are they ready for that? Or you know, like I said, can you get along with kids that you don't have the exact same background, the exact same likes, dislikes, like the same clothes, same hairstyle, whatever it is, you know? And I just feel like that's the biggest thing that for public school is an advantage for kids. And I know my kids are going to stay public schools. I hope my grandkids go through public schools.
Yeah.
And you know, hopefully everything goes in cycles. You know, this is my 19th year, and I think I've seen, probably, we were talking about it the other day, public education change maybe 3 times. Big changes in just my 19 years. So, you know, hopefully at some point too, it's going to swing back around and be a much more of a positive and supported thing in the future, I hope.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, I was listening to a coach talk the other day. I can't remember where it was or what it was on, but he was saying that he said he feels like if his kid can't go into a classroom or an area or a field or a college classroom where something is brought up that he disagrees with, or that isn't backing the principles he was brought up on, if he can't go into that and listen to that and still be able to reject it, then he said, I've probably failed as a parent. He said, I feel like I've brought my kids up strong enough in what we believe that they can go out into the world and be bombarded with other things and not change who they are. You know, and I thought, you know, that's a good point. As a parent, we hope that our kids can encounter those things. And that's one of the things, like you said, you get in the public schools or even in a lot of the colleges where, you know, they may try to throw things out there. You know, I can remember walking out of a college class at A&M, me and 3 other guys. It was called Healthy Lifestyles class. And they had someone come in to talk to us about alternative lifestyles. And it was just something that spiritually I didn't agree with. Okay, I just got up and walked out.
Yeah.
I didn't complain. I didn't do anything else. I just got up and walked out, and I went and told the prof later why I did. And she was fine with it.
Yeah.
She said, I understand. She said, our job, part of our curriculum is to teach X, Y, and Z. She goes, and I said, okay. I said, I just didn't want you to, me to be in trouble. No, wasn't in trouble or wasn't anything else. And, so when that coach brought that up to me the other day about, hey, they can go out into the world and see things that they don't agree with. They can be sitting in the classroom and people throw things. And he goes, I think I've raised mine to be strong enough to reject it.
Yeah, yeah.
And I thought, that's a good point.
Well, 100%. I agree with you there. I coached with a coach. He was a great basketball coach. And I remember he would tell our kids, he said, I can call a play and 3 things are going to happen. It can be the right call and it can work. It can be the wrong call. And if you believe in it, it may still work. I can make the right or wrong call, but if you don't believe in it, it won't work, And it kind of goes to that point of, at some point you're going to have to agree to disagree, on certain topics, and and it's okay for everybody to have their opinion and their view on it, and respectfully, be able to kind of collaborate back and forth and agree to disagree. I know what we have that conversation in the coach's office, like, hey. Once we walk out of here, we're all on the same page.
But in that coach's office, I used to tell mine all the time, man, if you think it's a terrible idea and I'm an idiot, tell me while we're sitting right here in the office.
Absolutely.
Don't say anything out there, but let's get it hashed out.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But that's something I think just society and today in general is missing, is the ability to disagree without hating people.
Yeah.
God, that's coaches. We're all about disagreeing all the time and coming up with a solution that actually works. And
yes, sir.
So I think we're pretty good at that. But well, tell me this then, is there something that you'd like to see us do differently in public schools that you think could kind of help overall with our kids?
Like I said, I think we just need to really continue to be mindful of telling our story, and making sure that we're getting the positives out there, because so much of what gets talked about in public education is just negative, right? Let's make sure we're getting the positive out there, Let's make sure we're getting the good stuff out there, and everywhere, small school, big school, inner city, rural area, whatever it is, whether it's, posting it online, whether it's, passing it on to your community members, whatever it is, and let's praise the positives, right? Because, you got to have that positive enthusiasm and that positive excitement to have the right culture in place as well. And so I think we just got to make sure we do our job of really kind of telling our story.
Okay. No, that's good. I like that. Okay, well, let's move on to the rapid fire questions.
Gotcha.
What's the most unusual situation you've encountered as a coach?
All right, so driving the state track meet.
I like this. You're prepared for this. You knew this.
You gave me these questions, and this was one that I actually kind of had to think about a little bit, but I was driving the state track meet one year, and we're quite a ways away. We're about a 6.5 hour drive, and one of my kids is sleeping back there in the back, and he pops up real fast, and so I know something's up. I'm thinking, man, he's going to have to stop and use the restroom or something. He said, Coach, I think I forgot my spikes. Come to find out, he forgot completely left his track bag. Uniform, spikes, the whole thing. We were going, obviously, to stay in a hotel. He had thrown his bag in with all his clothes and normal stuff, and he'd left his track bag sitting there at the school. And, so you kind of go into panic mode. So since then, I've always made sure, I was a very young head coach at the time. I've always made sure that I take extra uniforms.
The extra man bag for the track meet.
Yeah. You don't ever think about it for track.
No, I
right?
know.
But it happened. We got lucky that we had a coach that was coming down later to the track meet, and he swung by and grabbed the bag, and everything ended up being okay. But I'm sitting there in the heat of the moment when it first happened. You're like, I'm fixing to be going to academy, looking for spikes, looking for
the
whatever.
Right
he was on a relay, and
and
so the other 3 kids are also kind of panicking about it.
Yeah, because if uniforms don't match on a relay,
And so, anyways, we got lucky. Like I said, had another coach coming. They grabbed the bag, and then I also make sure that they've always got their track bag now. So, anyways, that would probably be my most unusual.
That's funny. We had to use one time. I was at Clifton. We were talking about over there with Finney and Humphreys and those guys, and we were going to, I think it was to Godley, and Cody Franklin, our running back, his bag blew out of the back of the. I think we had some of our stuff in a truck, and some in a trailer. and his bag blew out of the trailer or the truck evidently. And so we were having to try to squeeze him into whatever uniform we had in that extra man bag. But that was one of those times that extra man bag was great to have.
You know, it's funny you said that. It wasn't us. There was another school, and I won't name them, but we were on a trip to an away football game. I guess it's been about 7 or 8 years ago. And I remember I'm driving the bus, and Coach is sitting over here, and he's like, we go by this little bag on the side of the road. And he says, hey, I think that was a football bag. I said, you know, you got the big duffel bags that carry all the pads and stuff. And I said, nah, Coach, I don't think so. So keep driving a little further, and, you know, we'll get up there about 30, 40, 50 yards up ahead, and there's another one. And, we're looking a little closer now, and we're like, well, that is a football bag. And we get up about half a mile, and one of those Suburbans carrying a smaller trailer, something had popped open on that door, and they had lost, I guess.
Just falling out the
yeah,
bag.
The area we were kind of going was kind of hilly, and I think every time they were hitting a bump, one of those bags was just falling out the back there, you know. And we pulled over and told them, we're like, well, you got two more that are about 50. They didn't know how far back they were. And so kind of a similar situation. It didn't affect us, but...
Well, some people don't realize that's $1,000 worth of stuff in that bag.
Absolutely.
When you start talking about shoulder pads, helmet, cleats, jersey, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Okay, favorite pass route?
I'd say bootleg, anything play action. You know, we're a power run first football team, and so if we're calling pass, then it needs to be a bootleg or a play action, and then if something's open, that means our run game's working.
Oh yeah, no, that's good. Favorite run play?
So I'm a wing T guy. Kind of learned it. We do go double tight. We also kind of spread it out. Kind of a hybrid, I guess, wing T these days. Power spread run game, but. My favorite play would obviously be buck sweep, but favorite play to run in the game is what a lot of people these days, these new guys call us a pass play, is the old school smash. Everybody's blocking down.
You pull the backside guard?
Pull backside guard, lead side backs kicking out. That's the way I learned it from Coach Williams. Smash was a run play, not a pass play. So a lot of people today, they call it power, you know, and I get it. Everybody's terminology is a little bit different. But if we're calling smash in a game and it's working, you're going to see smash again and again and again and again.
It's hard to stop it. So many bodies in the hole, and you can't stop a down block.
Yep.
If your offensive lineman's pretty good, you can't stop a down block.
But, you know, with us, buck sweep's big, counter's big because, we've been big on our line the last year or two, but most of my career we haven't always had the biggest lineman, so we had to double combo and have guys that could pull and move around and kick out and whatnot. So
yeah, okay. Do you have a hair policy with your kids?
Yeah, we do. So as a matter of fact, our school has no facial hair, so that kind of helps me out.
Yeah.
Be able to enforce it pretty easily on the athletics end. And, and then as far as the hair goes, we're okay with it getting a little bit long. We don't really want it to get down below the shoulders or anything like that. Most of our kids haven't really bucked it or anything, and so it's kind of worked, and that's kind of what we do. I know, not saying it's right or wrong. Like I said, I think every situation, every place is a little different. And
what are the community expectations?
Yeah,
that was always
absolutely.
my deal. Okay, what does this community expect?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. Heads or tails on a coin flip?
Tails.
Tails never fails, huh?
Yeah. I like to do the coin toss ahead of time, too, if I can. You know?
Does y'all's district normally do that?
We did it. We did it the last 2 years. It's kind of a thing. If it's mutually agreed upon, we'll go ahead and do it, and then kind of do the ceremonial thing out there. But I don't know. I feel like even though if I may tell my kid to call tails, I just feel like I got a little better luck me calling it. But
okay, do you like to go offense first if you get the ball, or do you?
So I do believe it's kind of situational based, but I will say this: probably 90% of the time, I'm going to probably defer and play defense. And I feel that way for a couple of reasons, right? Most everybody scripts offensively. So you know what you want to kind of come out and do
scripted,
offensively. You've got your first 5, 10, 15 plays kind of lined up, formation-wise, what you want to see, where you want to go with the ball. I feel like, if we can go play defense and stop what you're scripted right off the bat, boy, that really sets the tone for a football game. Yeah. And then same thing as we come out of the half, right? We've made adjustments of maybe something that didn't work on the script or whatever, and now we get the ball to kind of come out of the half, So on a normal circumstance, I'm always going to say defer. That's what I'm always going to lean towards. My gut's always going to want to do. But I do think occasionally, and kind of being in West Texas and in the Panhandle, I've seen some of those Blue Northerns blow in the middle of a game. And so that plays into it. And, sometimes you get teams that they want to come out and go fast. And maybe it's better to take the ball and try to put a 5 or 6, 7 minute drive together and really get them impatient.
Yeah.
And so there are times when we'll go offense first, but probably I'd say 90% of the time I'm probably going to go defense first.
Okay. Do you give a pregame speech?
I do. Yeah, I do. And, I'm a believer in it. Sometimes it's a little bit more laid back. Sometimes it's in your face, getting them. I just kind of depends on the week. Depends on where I feel like our kids are mentally. And it depends on what we look like in pregame. And but I am always going to give a pregame speech. Sometimes it may just be going back over the game objectives, offensively, defensively, special teams. Sometimes it may be something motivational. But at the end of the day, we want to make sure that as soon as we step out of that locker room, whatever was said has our kids locked in and ready to go play football.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how I base it.
Gotcha.
Usually 3 to 5 minutes.
Okay. Do you have a favorite quote you like to use with your kids?
Yeah. We kind of have one. And like I said, it's not one I created. I don't really know where it started, but tough people win.
TPW.
TPW. And it's something we can say quick. And like you said, it rolls off the tongue real easy. We can use it in the weight room. We can use it in off season. We're in the middle of a game and things aren't going right. We can walk up and down the sideline and just tell our kids TPW. Something bad happens, we get a turnover, or we got to run defense out there, sudden change, TPW. And so that's a big one that we use. And our motto to kind of go off of that, piggyback off of that, is we tell our kids all the time the toughest, the most physical, the most disciplined team, 85-90% of the time is going to win. We feel like if you do those three things, if you're the tougher team that Friday night, whoever's across the field from you, if you're more physical and if you're more disciplined, you're going to probably win and put food on the table from a coaching standpoint, keep a roof over your head. A lot of games if you can do those three things. And I think those are three very measurable objectives that are easy objectives for kids to reach. And sometimes you may go play somebody that's just super talented and they're able to turn the ball over, not be tougher than you, not be more physical than you, not be more disciplined than you, and they still beat you, and that sucks. but that's sports, right?
Yeah, that's part of it.
But I would say that's kind of our quote and kind of our motto that we kind of build our program around. And I know our basketball coach even kind of uses that same thing. He wants them to get in there and, we don't have the tallest kids. We got to get in there and put our butts on them and block them out and be willing to kind of bump them a little bit and be tough, be physical, and be disciplined, not turn the ball over. And so those are our quotes.
Well, and I don't know where TPW came from either, but we used it when I was with Randy Jackson at Lone Oak in 2005 and 6. That's the first time I'd ever seen it. But I'm not sure who Randy had got it from. And a funny thing off that is one of my years at Schulenburg, we were playing Weimar, and it was a big game coming up, and I always did the middle stencil, the paint on the middle of the field every week. That was just kind of my part of it. And I put TPW across the middle of the field. I mean, I was an old math teacher, so I laid out the letters perfect, had TPW. Well, danged if I didn't have a whole group of parents ticked off because the cheerleaders theme that week was toilet paper Weimar. So I had a whole group of parents mad thinking that I put toilet paper Weimar across the middle of the field for TPW instead of tough people win. And after the game, after we beat them, we actually won that one, I think. And I told them that's tough people win. And we wound up having it put in our new lockers at the back of all of our new lockers. And so, but I was in trouble because they thought it meant toilet paper.
Hey, sometimes you can't win for trying, right?
I know. It was terrible, but it was so funny because it just happened to coincide with their theme for the week of toilet paper Weimar. But I like the TPW theme. All right, music in the weight room.
Yes. Anything that'll get kids kind of fired up and they love to listen to music. We're going to put it on. They don't always like the choice of music because we're going to kind of just put the old classic rock on in there and not have a cuss word every
something
other.
You can trust.
But if it'll get them going and get them juiced up, then we want high intensity in there. So we'll give them music.
Good deal. Varsity player in the band, do you let them march at halftime?
We do but as we get real close to competition, they're going to, and then they're able to on an away game. Home game when they're standing out there the entire time, the home team's not going till second. Maybe they're a starter or whatever.
Yeah.
And then we're needing to get warmed up at the end of half as well. A little bit trickier kind of situation there. Got a good band director that kind of we support everything all the way around. So we try to help them as much as possible, and then they try to help us as much as possible. And then we get close to competition, we're going to give them to them. And then if it's a district game or a big game or whatever, or homecoming's carrying over, then we may just say, hey, no, not this week,
Yeah, no, that's good. I like that. All right, favorite 3 lifts in the weight room?
Squat, power clean, and bench. Feel like we're big on our legs.
Do y'all do the true full power clean?
We do both. On our lower levels, we'll do more hang clean, and then as it gets heavier, I like the pull a little bit. We do some deadlift stuff, and we'll do the full power clean at that point as we kind of get to about level 4, 5, 6, and 7.
Okay, well, that's good. Favorite agility exercise?
So I really got 2 there. The 5-10-5. At our level, we don't get a lot of 4.4 40 guys, so that straight line speed ain't going to help. How fast can we change speed and be in and out of breaks is huge for us in football, basketball, baseball, whatever we do. So we do a lot of 5-10-5. Also L cone, the 3-cone L cone.
I love the L drill.
Where you're weaving around them. We do those as well. Because we just feel like it's real important. Linemen, skill guys, everybody to kind of control that. And then we do the 300-yard shuttle as well.
That's that mental toughness.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. That's more of a mental toughness thing because a lot of our kids have to go both ways.
Yeah.
A lot of our kids are doing every sport possible, and so their bodies are tired in the springtime. They play baseball. They got to get up and go to track. They got to come back and go baseball again. So we feel like that 300-yard shuttle's one that really kind of it's similar. Our track's over in the middle of town by the football field, so we're not able to do a 50-second run, the old school 50-second run around the track every time. But that 300-yard shuttle's a pretty close comparison that we can get out here on the practice field of it being tough and getting after them.
Yeah, no, that's good. Are you a conspiracy theory person?
Believe it or not, I am. My major and degrees in history. My certification's in history.
Okay.
So I'm a history
got some
guy.
Background.
Yeah.
To it.
And so, all of that stuff, I always listen to them. A lot of them I don't believe or whatnot, but the JFK stuff was really fascinating to me early on in my career, and every time something new drops from that, I kind of go back and look at it. So, yeah, I do definitely think about them. I don't know that I believe in all of them, but
you don't immediately discount them.
But I don't discount them either. Yeah, exactly. So,
all right. Do you listen to podcasts?
Yeah, Pat McAfee's probably my favorite. He's pretty energetic and makes it fun, and it's athletics related. So
yeah,
that'd probably be the one I listen to the most.
I like him as an announcer, because that's the football commentator too,
yes,
right?
Sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay, if you could change one rule in football, what would it be?
The thing that's the most aggravating for me right now, I think, is kids being ejected from a game automatically for a targeting call at the high school level. We don't have replay. Why are they not going back and fixing that? I haven't found one coach yet that thinks that's and you watch good. College football and you even watch the NFL and how many times is the call different than the call on the field? Oh, God, and they get replay to go back and review it, right? And we've run into this. We were in a big game my second year here. And right before the half, we're trying to bring some pressure on the quarterback, get the ball out of their hands quick. They got the ball around midfield. We're getting the ball to start the second half and had a linebacker go through, puts a little pop on the quarterback. There's a flag. Really didn't even, I'm kind of asking my coaches, I'm like, late hit? What is it, And they're like, coach is kind of hitting it about the time the ball came out. And they call him for targeting. He's a senior, It's out there on the homecoming night. He doesn't get the rest of his homecoming game right there. And my deal was like, are we 100% sure that that's what that was? And so to me, that's a big rule that needs to be looked at. Yes. The intent, number one, the intent's always got to be there. And then I get the helmet-to-helmet stuff as well. But boy, when we don't have replay and we've got the automatic, ejection on a targeting at the high school level, and I'm all for safety of the game, 100%. Anything that'll make the game safer, I'm for. But that's such a judgmental call and such a fast bam bam call that and high school officials, I know they're trained and they meet once a week and all. But like I said, going back to the college and the NFL guys, these guys are professionals at doing this.
Yeah.
And they even miss it.
Yeah.
And replay's able to fix it. So that would be my big one that I would say, if we could fix one thing, man, let's get that targeting thing. Let's revisit it,
Yeah, no, I agree with that. That's good. What would you do if you weren't a coach?
Probably be a salesman. I like to work.
Oh, yeah, because that's what you said you originally were doing.
I like to work. I've had several insurance guys and sports equipment guys come up to me and are like, well, whenever you're tired of coaching, I'll hire you. And so I don't know. I'd probably get bored doing it. I'm just super competitive, but that's probably what I'd be doing.
Well, Coach Patman.
A lot less stress.
Coach Patman retired from Del Valle over there on the other side of Austin, and that's what he does now. He sells over there in that Hutto area at I forgot the name of the thing. I always throw a plug out for him when I'm doing the advertising stuff on there. But Coach Patman, I think he's great at it because he's a people person anyway. Yeah. So I can see you doing sales stuff. And,
yes, sir.
Okay, do you have a pro or a college coach you look up to or model some things after?
Obviously, you're always looking for stuff. Quotes weekly for your kids to be the motivation, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Whether it's you're the underdog, whether it's you're the favorite and you're looking to keep your edge, whatever it is. And so I use a lot of different things from a lot of coaches. Obviously, Saban, everybody uses, I think, stuff from Nick Saban some way, because the fact that guy was able to get to the top and then keep his kids locked in on that. Signetti right now, has obviously got a lot of great stuff and the story.
Google me.
I mean, what? Yeah, I love that. Google
God,
me.
That was the worst thing ever.
What an incredible story, with Indiana and whatnot. And pro, it's a little bit harder just because these guys turn around and turn over so much, but I do like Andy Reid. I'm a Cowboys fan, so I didn't like him so much when he was with the Eagles. But as I've been in coaching longer and he's gone to the Chiefs, the job that he does and the job that the Harbaughs do there at the NFL level, to be able to get those professional guys to respect you and do, you're going to look and figure out what those guys are just saying and how they're relating with people, because those guys are getting paid millions and you're able to keep that locker room together. You got to be a master innovator, master motivator, and so you're always looking for tidbits that you can take and use from a lot of those guys. And then, of course, Lou Holtz kind of passing away here recently. There's a lot of stuff from him as far as preparing kids for life that we kind of take and use sometimes too.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. Now, do you have a favorite pregame song?
Yeah, I would say Enter Sandman, Metallica. Like I said, I'm kind of more of a classic rock guy.
All right. Favorite sports movie?
So, being a kid in the 90s, Sandlot was a big one.
I love Sandlot. That's a great movie. That's one of my favorites.
Fit me and a lot of my buddies as well. We kind of went, and the baseball park wasn't very far from where we were at, and so we were constantly going and playing and stuff. And so that one, anything that's based off true stories, with sports, I really take a big interest into. Friday Night Lights, I know that there's some parts of it that are obviously exaggerated up a little bit to make the story work, but it's based on true story, right? And so any of those things I'm real big into as well.
Well, I think the thing with Sandlot is so many of us, that is exactly how I grew up.
Yes, sir.
Before we moved out to the ranch, which was when I was not it wasn't until middle school that I was working on the ranch all the time, and then we moved out there in high school. But when I was in elementary, that's exactly how we spent our summers.
Got on your bicycle?
We'd ride the bikes over to Luke McKittrick's house, and we'd all meet at the lot right beside it and either be playing football there or we'd go over to the fields. I mean, it's just, was so American, at that time.
Don't go back home till it's dark.
Yeah, and parents didn't worry about us, or at least not that we know of, But nowadays I can't imagine having let my kid ride his bike across town and be gone all day without knowing what was going on.
Yep.
Okay, favorite movie quote?
Well, going along with it, you're killing me, Smalls.
Oh, yeah.
I love to use that one with our kids, and And they're
like, what?
Yeah, a lot of them, I'm like, go back and watch Sandlot, I coach quarterbacks, and so we're out there sometimes and they'll miss a wide open receiver or something in a drill or practice or make the wrong read. And I'm like, you're killing me, Smalls, So it's a fun one that we can also use with our kids, and so that's one that I use.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. Well, Coach, that's all the questions I got for today. Do you have anything you want to add kind of on Brady or what you got going on here?
I really appreciate you taking the time to kind of come out here and highlight us. And like I said, we've got good kids and are a good community. Brady is known as the heart of Texas. Geographically, they say it's right in the center.
Okay.
And, so that's something that it's kind of known for. But it's a town that a lot of people drive through. You're driving through to go to Hill Country from the Panhandle, West Texas, wherever you're driving through to go to Austin, San Antonio, stock shows. And so it's a really pass-through town. I think a lot of people are aware of Brady, but don't always just kind of know the full story of Brady. But it's a neat place. It's got good people. It is your rural kind of country way of living, but all that stuff kind of passing through here is kind of made it a bigger town, right? We've had a few coaches come through here, and they're like, "How are y'all going to it? You got a
I know it seems
McDonald's
awful big.
and
when you have a McDonald's, that's usually you have to be 3A.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have a Walmart here?
We do have a Walmart.
Then you've got to be 3A. Y'all can't go down.
Yeah, well, UIL says we're going down, so we're going down. And it is a big retirement town now, and I think that's a lot of our population that's there. There used to be some sand plants here, and those closed down about 10 years ago, and I know that's kind of affected the school system and the numbers and whatnot as well. But we're just good old country, hardworking kids and hardworking coaches, and we're having a good time doing it.
Well, sounds like a good place to be.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, Coach, thank you so much for taking the time, because I know there's not a non-busy time of year for you, and this is one of the worst, as far as being busy. So I really appreciate you taking the time to visit with me.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it, and I've enjoyed it. This has been a lot of fun.
Well, good deal. Good deal. All right. Well, thank you for joining us today out here in Brady on the edge of West Texas. I hope you enjoyed, and I guess the center of Texas, now I know that. And I hope you enjoyed our visit with Coach Roberts and getting to know a little more about him as a person and as a coach. And as usual, I have no clue where I'll be next week, but I hope you can join me wherever the road takes me. And remember, if you are lost in Texas, just look for the light.
I wear that red and white on a Friday night when my hometown takes the field. I say yes, sir, yes, ma'am, try to be the best man. That's how I feel. No matter where my heart runs, I remember where I came from. Still got that raised up pride, that small town pride, that black, red,